Hey friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. So the Fed FOMC committee concluded their meeting today. Federal Chair Jerome Powell came out and said, hey everyone, no changes. And that's the subject of today's video. I think this is an interesting topic because remember the markets before and Wall Street wanted a lot more cuts. Many people on YouTube were saying the same thing. I was like, yo, I don't think it's gonna happen. Now the Fed is kind of coming over to Team Chris, I guess, and also Team you if you've been following the channel. No changes, guys, no cuts, no hikes. And the thing is that kind of all the headlines are saying maybe one cut. I still think it's probably going to be either maybe no or one perhaps. I don't know if anyone's going to be thinking like seriously taking the two cut thing into consideration. If any sort of rate cuts happen, maybe September, probably the bet now is November. It depends on who you ask. The big question today was, because we also had CPI data come out, was the decision that the Fed made in their meetings. Did they take into the to account the latest numbers of CPI? I'm gonna say probably not, because the numbers came out at 8:30 and they're like, and that was Eastern time, I think, and they were, all amidst their meeting. I mean, I guess theoretically they can run in and say, hey, we got some numbers, but CPI data was a little bit cooler than market expectations, I'll say. However, you have to look at the numbers in particular. And if you don't know CPI, we're talking about inflation data here, right? The basic gist of it is shelter. Your housing costs are still high. And there's a lot of things that you take into account when you figure out and calculate inflation. The thing is, like, you need a place to live. It's no way to put it. You need a place to live. And so let's say, for example, the price of used cars go down, or the price of new cars go down, or the price of dishwashers go down, or the price of vodka goes down, or whatever, right? Whatever you're buying. The thing is, like, for the average person, shelter is like a massive component of your daily life, right? It's a massive component of the expenditures in your household. So that's an extremely important component. The other one, and that is actually not cooling off. So this is where, even though you may see inflation data like, say, hey, it's cooling off, or hey, it's flattening, you'd be like, well, it doesn't feel like that. It's because chances are your mortgage / your rent is a large proportion of your income, each month. And you guys can let me know, what percentage that you're at, where you are. And also too, you'll know in your, neck of the woods, in your neighborhood, in the city that you live in, if you feel like home prices are cooled or not. The other issue as well is, and this was one of the ones, and it wasn't really part of the headlines, but I looked at the CPI data today, is actually medical costs are pretty high. And for those of you who have to take care of loved ones, you probably know this stuff already. I mean, you would know from your medical bills. That is a major factor, but to be fair, that's not necessarily everyone, right? It all depends what age you are, what your health condition is, and sort of things like that. The other thing is too is in terms of things that are indeed cooling off, at least for now, but it's highly volatile, is energy costs. So I'd like to hear from you guys. How's your electricity, your gas bill, these kind of things? Would you agree, yes, prices are coming down a bit? Or would you say, well, it's not that, it depends on your situation. I can tell you about ours here in Korea. Every time we look at the bill, we feel like it's too expensive. So that's our opinion on electricity, but it depends on where you are. So I wouldn't, at least in our experience here, it doesn't feel like energy costs are going down. Maybe just flatlining in terms of inflation, right? So not necessarily going up anymore, but they're not going down. But at least some of the data I saw, I mean, they were showing negative numbers. So, that's why I asked you guys in your neck of the woods, like, your gas price, electricity, these kind of things, is it going up or down? The other component, which is really interesting as well, and this is, I think, really US related. I'd like to hear from other, people out there in other countries, but it's the price of food outside of home. Okay, so going to restaurants and these things, and those prices remain high. And I've seen other data on this as well, where people are saying, they're cutting back on how often they go to restaurants because it's just too expensive. Often that's tied to labor, right? So restaurants need to hire people, and then they figure out a way to pay for said people. Oftentimes they pass that cost on to you. And you guys know this as well. There's been a lot of restaurants have been asking for tips. I'm sure you guys know that stuff. And a lot of pushback on that. So I've been reading articles recently as well, as where people are like, I'm just getting tip fatigue. I'm tired of, the restaurants keep asking for more money than that. And I remember too, there was a couple restaurants, it was interesting, they were not only asking for tips, but they were like putting in a, how can I say, what do you want to call it, like an automatic gratuity fee. And then they had like different ones in that. So they had like, this is our standard gratuity fee, and then this is like an extra fee we're putting on to pay for our employees' health care, that kind of stuff. And I'm not against, employers helping out with their employees, et cetera, but as a consumer, I just want the price baked in. I don't want to be like, I see my bill, just for example, for $10, and on the menu it's like $10, and then suddenly I'm paying, sales tax and automatic gratuity, and then I'm supposed to tip, and it's like an extra 50% or whatever, as it being just like, it's just that expectation. And it's kind of like this, guys. I'll give you an example. We're taking a vacation to Vietnam in about 10 days from now, so I'm actually pretty excited on that. And one of the places we're staying, I think I have to pay extra for internet. It's not much money. It's like $10. It's not a big deal, right? Extra, but it's just irritating. you want to just pay the price, and it is what it is, right? So for example, breakfast is included, but I guess for whatever reason, internet not. And usually, most of the places that we go, it's not really an issue. However, you never know. When you visit, different countries, they may have different policies. Maybe everyone, pays for internet. Maybe that's part of the regulations there. I'll give you an example. We went to Venice, how was that? I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. Can't remember exactly when it was. And they have like a city tax that is like required of everyone, right? So, you get irritated when you see the price of, a hotel or whatever, and then you're like, oh, what's this, 3% city tax or whatever, but it's like, that's just regulation stuff. So sometimes when you see these extra things, that's just like requirements of the place there. And for those of you in the restaurant or hotel industry, I should say, or hospitality industry or entertainment industry, travel industry, all these different industries that are included, you guys know exactly the kind of things that I'm talking about. Other issues as well, whenever we talk about these kind of topics, is like, why do we track all these things? Why do we track what the Fed's doing? Why do we track inflation? Is because if you want to talk about, say, stocks in the U.S., and it's really any company, but we'll talk about the U.S. in particular, consumers are a big part of the economy, right? I think it's like 70% or something like that, or the GDP, you could say. But the basic gist of it is, okay, in order for this economy to function, you need people to have money to say buy, we'll use Apple example, buy your Apple iPhones, right? Apple then sells these iPhones to said consumer, makes a profit, reports the profit every couple of months, and then we decide, do we want to buy ownership in said company, which is essentially a stock. And so, because this is a common question when people say, hey, do stocks only go up? it has felt like that way the last couple of days, especially just using the Apple example because it's been on my mind. It's just been going up. And I'll just say this, as long as a company is healthy, they're bringing a consistent revenue, and then their earnings are growing, and they're just a solid, a stalwart business, and also too they offer you value by having that stability of cash flow. Then sure, owning a share of that business tends to be good, and with inflation, your assets tend to go up over time, right? It's not necessarily guaranteed though, and this is sort of why you watch all these things, because you want to be saying, okay, what are the borrowing costs for people to buy said things, if indeed they are going to be borrowing money to buy said things. And it feels like, the way that the market's been reacting, the way people have been talking, and things I see around the market, is so much of our economy, modern economy these days, is based on borrowed money. Companies borrow money to invest in whatever thing they're going to invest in, and then consumers, be it private consumer or your business customers, right, B2B, they may borrow money to buy whatever they want to buy, and this whole economy is based on a juggling act. It feels like, and so then what happens is that when people make these wild projections, they think that growth is going to happen forever. And that kind of growth doesn't turn out to be true, and they're leveraged to the hilt. Plus, then when their business slows, because things change, and you could talk in our situation, the combination of the whole COVID situation. Plus, we've been pumping money into the system for years. Zero interest rate. It seems like we have a crash every decade or so. It's just how our system runs. It's like, okay, we just keep pumping fuel in the system until we crash, and then and then we act like the crash is rare, but it's not as rare as you would think. I'm having this conversation with you because the last, I don't know, I think it's been the Evergrande situation in China, and then just kind of seeing what's been happening, and knowing that the whole market has just been running on this AI hype. I mean, that's what's been running our markets this year. and everyone keeps talking about it. And it's like, this is always the rule of thumb when you're, hairdresser, when you're a taxi driver, when just regular person on the street starts talking about, hey, have you heard about this new AI technology? It's going to change the world. I'm throwing, all of my money into said thing. Then it's the top of the bubble, right? I'm not buying it, guys. I don't know. That's just me. I must be old. Apple, and using the Apple example, it's like they had their presentation on the AI stuff. I saw it. I thought, okay, it's cool. I'll use it because we're forced to. It's going to be integrated into the system. I have Apple computers. Okay, fine. But like, if I want to get it on my phone, I got to go out and upgrade a new phone to like the iPhone 15 Pro or better. And I'm like, for me, I'm not going to do it. So I already have it on my computer, and it's just not something I want. But maybe for some people it is, and this is sort of the assessment you have to make. If not everyone is, like, for example, say ChatGPT. I've used it a couple of times, but I don't know. It's not really worth $20. I think is that what it is? Isn't it $20 a month? It's not worth it for me. Depends on other people. Some people, use that stuff if you're in coding or some sort of profession that is useful for you. For me, it's just not really that useful. But that's just me. Everyone's gonna have a different, your mileage will vary. But this is the kind of stuff to where, like, all these projections of all this money coming to the system to go to this new tech. It's like I'm just like, where is this money coming from? It's the same way when depending on where you live, you look at the price of housing, you're just like, who's got the money to buy, said houses at said prices, and it's not just me, guys, and it's not just my wife, because we have these conversations all the time. At least in Korea, and I'd like to hear from other, people in other cities. Like almost everyone we know, like, looks at the price of housing, like, who can afford this or crap? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's like I lived in LA, I lived in New York, I live here, in Busan, or you could talk about, we have a lot of friends in Seoul, but these are major metros. But even in like the smaller areas, I'll just use an example of USA. I know Nashville is terribly expensive. Give an example of that one. Like a place like Denver is expensive. There's very few places that, desirable places you want to live, and people are like, oh yes, houses are really cheap. Not that many people say that these days, and so that's why I go back to the whole CPI thing with shelter costs. Is like, okay, if too much proportion of our income is going to, or money is going to shelter, where are we going to find that extra money to all of us buy these $1,000 phones and buy these AI additions that may or may not need? That's a question I pose to you. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't invest in anything at all. Sometimes the market is really, really, how can I say, frothy or irrational, or the words you want to say. And so that would be the advantage of being, if you want to just throw your money into some index funds, throw your money into some bonds. So why would you do that? Bonds give you guaranteed returns. You're like, hey, I'm going to get 4 or 5%. I'm going to just take that. That's guaranteed. I'm not going to lose. Like, you're not going to lose. Or, if you want to throw your money into index funds, the reason why you do that is because, like, okay, maybe the AI hype's here, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I'm going to make money on it because I already got money in, the large proportion of the S&P is, NVIDIA or Apple. I'm going to make money on that way. And then if it doesn't, make money on that, it's because I already have holdings in other things, be it energy, industrials, banks, whatever, finance, healthcare, right? I'm going to make money on that. And so that's sort of, you're not so stressed out about those things. It's fun to talk about, all the things going on in the market, because it's true. Once you have your base and maxing out your 401k and getting that stuff in the index, then yeah, if you want to pick out a few companies, go for it by all means. That's why we talk about this stuff. I have no trouble with that, and I just want to keep you guys informed. One thing that's frustrating for me, there's so many channels out there that pump the hype, and also too, I'm honest with you guys, you can't make money on the hype, but just know it's a hype, and sort of have a sense of what a fair value is, and so then you allocate to your resources in a way that makes sense for you on the riskier stuff, right? So you're not YOLOing and taking out second mortgages on your Bitcoins and stuff like that. So you guys know what I'm saying. Anyway, that's what's going on in the markets. I enjoy out for these walks, and I was telling you guys, we've had some really great weather here in Busan, and it's fun, and we'll keep doing this with you, and please share your thoughts on this stuff. What do you think about what's going on with inflation and the Fed? Appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.